Anyway, exclamation everybody. Welcome to a roundup of MindsEye. As you can see, I've got the credits rolling. Oh boy. Um what can I say about this? Not a lot of good things. I can say that there was definitely it definitely looked like an ambitious game. Um And I would say probably the biggest thing holding it back was that they underestimated how long it was going to take to do this game. And I think someone pushed, don't know who, someone pushed to get this out the door before it was fully cooked. And it's very clear that's the case. The missions are missing what's the word I'm looking for? They're missing halfway fail states. So, what do I mean by that? In this game, if you even go slightly off course or do something slightly different than what the game's expecting, you get an instant fail. And it's very, very punishing in that regard. Sometimes, a lot of times in these levels, it's not very clear where you got to go next, even though there's a pin that's put on the mini map for you. Often it's just like 5 steps the wrong direction will get you an instant failure. And oftentimes level designers will put clues into their levels to let you know, like, okay, here's kind of where you want to go. I mean, I know there's a lot of backlash about yellow paint and stuff like that, but there's other clues that would take your, grab your eye and say, here, this is the place you got to go. This game lacks all of that. It is very, very easy to just get completely turned around and get completely lost. And then just get into a fail state. Furthermore, the missions, as you go further along in the game, the missions, in order to, it's clear there was no balance done. Because in order to make the game more difficult, all they really did was throw 5,000 more enemies at you. And I'm not kidding. It's like they throw hundreds upon hundreds of enemies at you. It's all the same enemy over and over and over again. There's maybe 3 or 4 different types, and you see the same 3 or 4 different types throughout the entire game. And it's just insanity. Like, it's not even a matter of just, you need to, 5 steps forward, go into stealth. 5 steps forward, go into cover. 5 steps forward, go into cover. A lot of times, especially with the last mission there, you're under some kind of timer. Whether it's you're trying to chase somebody. In the last mission, you're trying to chase somebody. You have to keep them within a certain distance of you. So if you hang back too long to take out enemies that you have to take out, then you get a mission failure. And by have to take out, I mean, if you don't, they're all dead eyes. They'll get you immediately. Even you might think you can run and avoid them, but it's next to impossible. There's graphical nonsense going on. They fixed a little bit of the graphical issues, but there's also character model issues. For instance, the enemies will often, especially the robots at the end there, they'll fire at you, but they won't be facing you. The bullets will just arc out of their guns and come around and at you. And there's often, like in the last mission there in particular, you're behind a wall, and there's like all these laser shots coming past you on that wall, and yet the enemies are behind cover. Like, they're not even they're not even in eyesight of you, and their bullets are coming at you. It's insanity. Um, and and then there's a mission that's just straight up broken. And I don't mean, and I not game breaking broken, but just obviously not play tested. It's a mission that happens just after, and I won't give any spoilers, but we'll say there's a grave site that you have to come out of. That you have to leave a grave site and get in a car and go to one of the protagonists' um, house to pick up a device, and you're given exactly one car. And as soon as you get into that car and start driving, other cars appear out of the blue and shoot out your tires immediately. And within a few seconds, your car is smoking and on fire, and you've got to abandon it. There are no other cars along the routes that you can get into and use. From that point forward, you have to run for 3.5 in-game miles to the endpoint. And along the way, if you go along the road, you'll see that there's just enemy NPCs just kind of all plotted around the map to jump you. And so if you just run across the grass and run across the dirt, you avoid pretty much all of them until you get to the final destination. And while there's no stamina, you can run forever. It still takes about 10 minutes of just straight running to get to that destination because you can't use your car. And there's also some roadblocks along the way. By that I mean, if you take a wrong turn, you end up in an area where you can't get back up on the road. You can't progress further because they're blocked by waist high walls that you can't get over, and all kinds of stuff. It's clear that it just wasn't completed. The other thing too is, while I appreciate a linear story game, and this is definitely a linear game through and through, it's not open world at all. They have a free roam that you unlock, but there's no point to it. It's just there. It's a linear game. You do a lot of driving, a lot of traveling, I should say, between points, and a lot of that is just to provide a means for the game to narrate story to you. A lot of the dialogue is not of a very good quality. I think the voice actors are doing the best that they can do with what they've been given, but the dialogue itself, not great. Okay, so from the video, I've probably cut out that part so I don't give any spoilers. Not that would really spoil anything. It was just a weird epilogue. If I could even, I'm being kind by calling it an epilogue. It was just a random passing thought more than anything else. Yeah, the dialogue and stuff is pretty terrible at points. There are, when it needs to convey information, it often does it, but sometimes it's just, well, let's get into the story. The story itself has an interesting premise. It's not one that hasn't been done 1,000 times before, but it has an interesting premise to it. It does kind of go off the rails a little bit, and it doesn't really earn some of that off the rails stuff. And I think, honestly, the story seems like it was chopped up and rehashed and kind of reworked from what it probably should have been. There should have been more introduction to the big threat. It ends up going into just wild conspiracy sounding things without really earning that conspiracy sounding thing stuff. And it's there are points where the game doesn't there like there's a jump at some points, and I'm not talking like a time jump, but I'm like a almost like a narrative stutter. There's also some things set up that never come back into play that I didn't quite understand. So for one thing, there's at the beginning of the game, and it is generally at the beginning of the game, um, you start having these portals sort of showing up around the town, um, and they seem to hint at them being memories, but they're not actually your memories. They're just very random. And I was struggling mightily to try to figure out what the hell these random things were, because I thought they were memories at first, and then I'm like, are these just other people who have inhabited the MacGuffin of the story? You know, these other personalities have been downloaded into the device that is at the center of this. And it turns out I missed, apparently, there was a pop up somewhere along the way that I missed that explained that the portals in the game are user generated content that that you can use with the in-game tools to generate these things that show up around the open world. Well, around the world, which I guess is what the free roam is supposed to do. It's supposed to let you go play those things. That is not explained very well, because it's kind of integrated into the story a little bit, because some of them actually seem to be things that were to have to do with the main protagonist, but others are just completely random, just absolutely random. And it's it does not highlight any strengths of the game. Let's put it that way. I think it's clear to me that there was a bigger, probably more ambitious open world that they were trying to do, and they basically cut all that off, and they were left with this kind of weird dangly bit that makes no goddamn sense and is pretty darn useless in the grand scheme of things. And what was making it even more confusing to me was that at the end of those missions, you would get a rating. So bronze, silver, or gold. But none of the other missions in the game were giving me that. So I'm like, what is going on? What I don't understand. And of course, I didn't understand that that was user generated content. So I didn't understand that that was the difference. That's why the main story missions don't give you anything, and you know, in terms of like a ranking or anything, and those other ones did. And it was really confused, because I would sometimes see it and sometimes not see it, and I wasn't sure why. And then I found out later that, yeah, that's all user generated content. So it makes more sense now, but it was boggling my mind at the time. The um the combat in general is a shooty bang, and it's okay. It's okay. I I think the problem that the combat suffers from right now is that they have not embraced the idea that less is more, right? Like there are combat sequences that will take you 45 minutes to an hour to do, just because they throw so much stuff at you. It's literally 5 steps forward, 20 guys, 5 steps forward, 20 more guys, 5 steps forward, 20 more guys. And it gets a little bit ponderous after a while. You are meant to use your like robot companion a little bit more than I did, but even then, you don't get the really powerful weapon until the end for your robot companion until the end of the game. And by then it's very useful, but also it's extremely annoying because whenever your robot companion gets shot, it takes power damage. And so a lot of times when you're trying to, the grenade weapon that you get, you can only fire two of them, so it takes half your power. And most of the time you fire one of them and then you're taking so many hits that you can't recharge up to midway power to fire the next one, and so you have to zoom in, zoom out, fly in, fly out, fly in, fly out in order to utilize it, and it just becomes a an absolute annoyance that you absolutely have to deal with, because towards the end they throw so many robots at you that absolutely require you to use the weapon on your drone that you just can't go without it, because they don't give you enough. I mean, they don't give you enough bullets to begin with, so you have to pretty much use the drone for it, since it's got unlimited bullets and stuff, and it's rather crazy and pretty unbalanced. So like if they had figured out how to do the combat better and figured out how to balance it better, I think it would be actually okay. Since that's really the only thing the game has going for it. The story, like I said, it's just, it doesn't earn anything, and it's very cut up, copy paste it, not copy paste it, but like cut up into pieces and then kind of rearranged, and it just, things just never kind of click. None of the characters feel real. The dialogue often strays off into just absolute inanity. Um, and the underlying premise, like I said, is actually interesting. It was interesting enough to keep me playing the game, and the combat itself was actually fun enough for me to complete the game. But it was definitely a tooth pulling exercise along the way, and yeah, it just I mean, a good example of just kind of the how incomplete it is that towards the end you have a pin that you have to, on your map that you have to run to. So you go through, you know 80, 90 enemies to get to this rooftop, and then you get up there for like 5 seconds. You have a little cutscene with a little dialogue, and then the next pin is come back down off that rooftop that you just got onto, come all the way back down the way you came, and then go to the next building along the way. And it's just like, what are we doing here? Like, what is going on? Like, just like, you gotta smooth that stuff out, and none of that's been smoothed out. It's very rough around the edges. So it's a thing. It's a thing. It's I number one, do not buy this game at full price. I paid the full price for the enhanced edition, extended edition, whatever it's called, exclusive edition. I don't know what it is. The $80 edition of it, and it's not worth it. In fact, it's not even worth the $60 I think the base game is. Wait for it on sale, deep discount, if it ever makes it that far, and absolutely do not buy it at full price. It is not. It is not worth that money. It's quite, even within the patch, that they put out, even in its patch state, it's very incomplete. They've managed to patch some of the game breaking bugs. They've managed to patch some of the performance issues. But even at the last mission, I didn't have any real performance issues until the last mission when I started getting a little bit of a slowdown in the last area. But it's I was still getting a lot of ghosting off the cars, the back of the cars, where you'd see like a ghostly image of your car behind you as it's moving along. The bumper particularly. Um, they did fix the ghosting around and the bad shadows around the characters anyway, so that's a positive because that would be it would be unplayable without that. Um, but yeah, it's still there's still I mean it's just it's very clear that this was not ready and it needed another year, year and a half, maybe 2 years to really cook and really get a good um get a flesh out the story more. Don't have the jumps in the story. Like there was a jump in the story where I thought for a moment that we were back in the main character's past, but we were in the present, and it was like I was just completely confused. Because it does a little bit of like, here's what happened. You know, you're starting to remember things, and then I was just had a hard time following it at points, and smoothing out all those things in the narrative, getting some different kinds of missions because really you have it's really the same mission all the time. Like your objectives are slightly different, but really it's just shoot everything and don't be shot, or get something done. Shoot everything while under a time limit, or chase someone while under a time limit. And let me tell you, some of the chase sequences. I mean, they are this is what makes it even more clear that the game just wasn't ready is that oftentimes when you're chasing another car, that car is going 9,000 miles an hour. Like there is no way. There's one mission. I'm sure anybody who's played it will tell you this. There's one mission where you're chasing this lady in a car and she takes off. Like you have your going as fast as your car will possibly take you, and she is gone. And the only way I was able to figure out how to stay on her tail, and I failed multiple times, was to not follow her the whole way. Just I realized that she was going up a road and then coming all the way back down and going in a circle. So I just waited for her to complete her circle, and then I stayed on her that way. But it was just it's insanity. There was no way to play the mission as it was programmed because our car was just going crazy fast. It was like a rocket trying to follow a rocket. It was impossible. Um, so yeah. I mean, that's my general assessment is don't buy this game unless it's on a deep discount. Um, and you get nothing from the $80 tier at all. So don't even bother with that either. There's I think some cosmetics, but the game it wouldn't matter anyway. I mean, it's a single player game, and it's just it's yeah, who cares at that point? Um, and yeah, yeah, it's unfortunate. I like I said, I think another year and a half, maybe 2 years, if they had development for this game, it probably would have been in a much better state. Maybe it would have even had an open world or something because it looks to me like they had high ambitions for what they were trying to do. Maybe having side missions and stuff instead of just being a straightforward, um, narrative focused thing. Um, Giving you a reason, like you unlock weapons and um, upgrades for your drone just by doing the main missions. Like you don't like you never it never feels like you earn anything. It's just like you're just given stuff. All of a sudden your drone could do something new now. And so there's no like feeling of accomplishment. There's no feeling of progression. It doesn't really matter how many. The only reason you have to take out all the enemies in a map is because they will insta kill you. You know what I mean? It's just nothing feels earned in the game at all, either from playing the game or from the narrative or anything else. So that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is, my friends. That is MindsEye. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in